Kelli Kelley knows what it takes to be successful in corporate America. She began her career in communications, serving as a public relations coordinator for the Wal-Mart brand, faded glory in their New York office. However, there was something in her life which was missing: control and creative freedom. Thus, she pivoted away from a career she was successful in to start her own digital marketing firm known as brndMethod, an agency focused on finding qualified leads for their clients and then turning those leads and converting them into sales. She joined me this week to talk about her pivot and why she found her own happiness being her own boss. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Hey, Kelly, I want to take a few minutes and welcome you to the program, and we're excited to learn all about your entrepreneurial journey. So great to see you. Happy Monday, and thanks so much for being here.
Happy Monday to you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited.
Now, before you dived into your own sort of agency, you worked in corporate America for almost 20 years. So I'm going to start you off by asking you, what do you think you made that pivot, and what advice would you have for anyone in corporate America who may be thinking about doing the same thing you did?
So I think I always feel like I was always a true entrepreneur. My first entrepreneurial venture was selling uh, pirated copies of Dr. Dre's The Chronic. Uh,
Oh, well.
no one, no one my age, none of our parents would let us have it. I had one copy and I knew that I could sell it because they couldn't get it any other way. And so I think it just is something that's ingrained in you, the entrepreneurial spirit. And as you grow up and you get into corporate and you have responsibilities, sometimes a corporate job is what you have to do. I don't think it was never anything I necessarily wanted to do or was excited about doing, but you have responsibilities. But my heart has always been in creating opportunities, charting my own path, and building success that way.
And what do you think you learned most about yourself while you were in corporate America as a person?
I learned that while I don't have a problem with authority, I have a problem with bureaucracy. I don't like doing things for the sake of doing them. I don't like being restricted by creativity strictly because it's not how we do things. I don't like uh, office politics. And those things impact me in a way that I think diminishes my creative capabilities. And, that's just me. I know that for a fact. I thrive better when I'm in my own environment. Obviously, as a business owner, your clients are still like your boss, and that's fine. But the terms are we put together the creative and execute. We're not bound by office politics or who doesn't like who or any of that. And I rather enjoy that.
Creative freedom is important, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's very important. I mean, I'm a creative type. I'm a creative person. And if I can't be creative because of office politics or things like that, that is like soul crushing.
So tell me about the agency. I know that you help people drive sales to their business through digital marketing and content. So tell me all about the agency that you started.
Yeah, so we offer digital strategy and consulting. So that's usually reserved for companies that maybe have a one-person team or a small team, and they just need some creative direction in terms of strategy. Or we just take individual clients that way. We also do content marketing, which is more of a done-for-you type service where we handle the social media, the email marketing, and then we offer podcast production. And that's usually a kind of a separate sort of service. Oftentimes, once we do get the podcast underway for a client, then it becomes, well, how do we promote this? It's great to have the podcast, but how do you then do the promotional piece to it with social? And then we have website design, which is another sort of gateway service. We'll do the website, deliver it, and then the client is usually like, okay, well, now what? So it all kind of ties back together. And I think we're in such an exciting time right now with people having to get very creative about how they're reaching their audience. It's not enough to just put brochures out or anything like that. You have to get real creative, and digital allows that.
It's the wave of the future for sure. And
Absolutely.
And can you tell me about, you piqued my interest in podcast production because obviously we're recording this for a podcast. So what would be your advice to anyone that wants to start a podcast? Because when people ask me that, I always tell them it's a saturated market, right? Because everybody wants to start a podcast. So I tell them, uh, don't be afraid to stand out and find what it is that is your niche, right? So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what would your advice be for effective podcast production?
I think the biggest advice I would have is to develop a cadence so you can remain consistent, which is something that, we struggle with our own podcast, is just not really putting the time and resources behind it to have it be a functioning process. And so then you lose months at a time if you're just trying to kind of put it together on the fly. It doesn't work. And consistency is so important. I think the other thing with podcasts is that you have to integrate ways to promote it and repurpose it. If it's just living on iTunes or it's just living on YouTube, that's great. But there's tons of opportunity to break that up and repurpose it. 60-second clips, infographics, text overlays. I mean, there's so many things you can do. You can turn one podcast episode into 5 to 7 different pieces of content that you can use. I think it's also important to leverage each other's network. If you're having guests on the podcast, make sure that you're able to, that you're proactive in promoting it. You want to be in front of their audience and just get as much mileage out of it as possible.
Yeah, and I'm also curious to get your opinion on this as well. Since I've started this podcast, I've certainly been asked to be on other people's podcasts, and I think it's a great idea for business owners who's looking to get their message out there to be on other people's platform to promote what they do from a podcast or business perspective. So, can you give me your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to kind of have that mutual beneficial relationship where, if you're a guest on someone's podcast and they're a guest on yours, you guys are tapping into each other's network and you're supporting each other. And that's a really good idea to do right now. We want to create as many touch points as possible. And the way the algorithms work on social, if you post this on your LinkedIn, even if I'm not connected, I'm now exposed to your audience, and that's the way you grow and you build external relationships. So I think that's a really good idea, is to look for ways to be if it makes sense for your brand. I wouldn't try to stretch it, but if it's authentic and it makes sense, I would definitely recommend doing it.
And I know that you also help people create digital marketing, as you said before. So I'm wondering, uh, anyone watching or listening to this who wants to create a more digital marketing footprint or an enhanced digital marketing footprint, but they don't have a whole lot of money, but they want to do that, what would you tell them to start?
I would tell them to start with a really strong strategy. If you don't invest in anything else, get a strategy down. The biggest mistake I think a lot of people make is, number one, thinking that they can just kind of shoot from the hip with social, post when they want, when they remember, when they think about it, when they have something coming up.
Got to be
And
consistent, right?
you have to be consistent, and it has to be a mutual conversation. You can't just constantly promote whatever it is you have without engaging on these platforms. If you sit down and you create a strategy, then you find ways to, you find a good rhythm of mixing your promotion of your product or service, but also engaging with the community. Nothing else is going to work. You're not going to get anybody's attention by constantly just spewing out what you do. You have to be involved in the conversation. You have to engage. So there needs to be a strategy to determine, how are we engaging with our community once we start building followers? We can't just look to them to, convert when we want something.
And I know that it's important to you to support minority businesses and women specifically. So tell me why that's so important to you.
So in January of 2018, I had the opportunity to be a part of the Women's Entrepreneur Initiative, which is a women's only incubator style program here in Georgia. It's 15 months long. They select 15 women entrepreneurs. They give you free office space. They give you mentorship, and really gives you the tools you need to build a business, not just trade whatever it is you do. And I have to say that being in that environment with other women entrepreneurs, our experiences are so unique as women. And there was no pressure to separate it. It was no pressure to come in and pretend like your kid didn't keep you up all night, or that you were feeling emotional about something, or you were sad. It was just you and a bunch of other women that were trying to make something, and sometimes things went wrong, and we could all be honest about it. And I think that's unique for a women environment. And so I want to support, other entrepreneurs, because we just have issues that are unique to us, especially if we're moms, wives, caretakers. We're usually the lead person to nurture. So if that's your parents, if that's your family, and that you're not going to separate that from yourself as a business owner.
And what do you think is the key to continuing to positively advance the cause of women in business?
I think creating safe spaces for open dialogue is super important. And then creating the opportunity for us to shoot our shot, not to look at us as women-owned businesses and automatically discount our capabilities or our skill set. Give us an opportunity to present or pitch. And if it's still not good enough, then okay. But we're not even involved in a lot of rooms right now because some people don't even think about it. It's just not a thought that they have. And then others are intentional and malicious, and they don't want to see women in power because of, ego, whatever. But we have to be more involved, whether that's in a business environment or a corporate environment.
Now, Kelly also believes that the digital marketing space opens up several avenues of opportunities for advancement for individuals with disabilities to live a quality and dignified life.
I think it could be phenomenal because you remove a lot of obstacles involved in terms of logistics and things like that. And if that is a part of the disability, then now they can be players. They can get involved. They can shoot their shot and have a chance. And you can't blame it on the fact that, oh, well, is it going to be a problem for you to physically get here? Or, what does that look like? The main reason I really love digital is because it creates so many opportunities. It almost levels the playing field in a certain way. And so we all have access to creating something for ourselves or more opportunities for remote work, whereas that may not have been an option depending on the disability. It may have just been out of the realm of anything that could happen. Now, maybe there's opportunity there, and I think that's important.
And my final question for you is, when you're not working, what keeps you busy from a fun perspective there in Georgia?
Well, to be honest, my family has been pretty locked down. My husband and I are both working from home. My daughter went back to school in June, but we do enjoy hosting small COVID-friendly things at our home. We love entertaining our family. My dad and brother and sister are all coming over for an early Thanksgiving family dinner on Saturday. We normally hop around houses, but my dad he has type 2 diabetes, and he's a little older, and I don't want to jump from house to house and then see him. So they're going to come over. We love to have people over. We love family. We love, a nice, good kickback. And we can't do it necessarily like we used to with, 10, 20 people. But we just have sized it down a little bit, and just spending time with family. We really don't go out much at all.
And in terms of parenting, what have you learned about yourself as a parent through the pandemic? I'm just curious.
Ooh,
I'm glad I made you laugh, though.
Well, Kevin, we were all home, locked down for 74 days. We pulled her out. She was 4 at the time. We pulled her out of school March 13th, and we were all home together for 74 days. And
you survived, no?
I survived. I had to learn to give myself grace. I mean, just my personality. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be homeschool and have like a solid, strict curriculum. I wanted to obviously do my work for business. And about 3 days in, I was like, there's no way I can do all of this together. Like we're going to pick 2 or 3 worksheets and we'll focus on that. I had to get a lot of patience. I had to understand that, although 4, she's a human being too. And one day she was going to school with her friends, and then the next day she wasn't. And it took an emotional toll, and I had to have patience and just find moments of gratitude. Like, okay, this is hard, but we're all healthy. We're home together. The bills are paid, and we can be home together. We don't have to make the choice, for financial reasons. Like we have to go outside the home. We can all be here together. So it's rough, but I was definitely grateful.
Well, Kelly, I have to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about all the great work you're doing to advance minority women in the field of business, and really enjoyed meeting you, and I want to thank you for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I appreciate being on the show.